Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Susan Howers, and I'm host of The Safety Net, which today is a different kind of show. We don't usually do things that are political. And today's show is not really political, it's informative. But because we have Bill O'Donnell, our state registrar, on the show today, we thought we would discuss what the Registry of Deeds does, who he is, and why he's on the show today. Welcome, Bill.
Susan, thanks for having me. And you're right. The Registry of Deeds has been around in Norfolk County since 1793. Brookline and surrounding areas are part of Norfolk County. And really, the registry deals with the records, real estate records. So when you think about it, the biggest asset most people have, the biggest financial asset is their home. And that's what the registry deals with.
But how do you deal with it? I
Well,
don't understand, and I should know. I should know. I'm homesteaded. I have no idea what that means, but I
well,
am homesteaded.
And, I'm an attorney by training. I was fortunate enough to go down to Georgetown University, get an economics degree, and come back and went to school at Boston College Law School and worked as an assistant district attorney prosecuting cases. But I was also in the private sector where I represented buyers and sellers. And you mentioned homestead. If people want to get information, I urge them to go to the registry website. We've tried to make the registry relevant with modernization initiatives. And one of the things, we have a website, www.norfolkdeeds.org, that has information on the homestead. The homestead is a state statute, and it really puts a picket fence around the home from a forced sale. And, Susan,
What does that mean? Wait, Bill, what does that mean from a forced sale? If somebody wants me to sell and I don't want to sell?
No, we
No.
all sometimes are one bad decision away or bad luck. The best example I give, and I was about to say attorneys have different opinions, but I'd say 9.9 attorneys out of 10 say get a homestead. Most of us drive a car. We might think we have a lot of insurance on our car, 100,000, but we hit someone in the crosswalk and there's a $500,000 case. Well, that advocate for that injured party is going to chase you for money because you only have a 100,000 policy. But they can't force the sale of your home if you have a homestead recorded. And so there's little protections like that. For instance, if you got the proceeds from the sale of your house, if it's your principal residence, they can't swoop in and go after the proceeds of your sale of your house for a limited period of time, 1 year. Or if your house burnt down, there's a 2-year protection on the sale. So there's a lot of information on our website like that for homesteads. And also, people, it doesn't matter where you're living, struggling with foreclosure. And we've partnered up with a couple of nonprofit groups, Quincy Community Action Program, NeighborWorks Housing Solutions. And of course, the Attorney General's office has resources. Go to our website. If you know anyone that is dealing or struggling with foreclosure, you can get, first of all, it's a legal proceeding. You can get the advocacy, but also you can get counseling.
Okay. I'm not sure I understand it, but the registry, your office does more than just homesteading. Am I correct?
Yes, any legal document, for instance, we're relevant to most people because deeds get recorded. When you buy a house or you sell a house, the deed to that property gets recorded. And I think that makes it relevant to people. People just want to make sure. And I always say, there's been 11 registers since 1793. But I think the mission is the same. Of course, we deliver services in a much more modern and technologically advanced way. But I bet you the mission of the first register was to make sure those records are recorded accurately and securely. And for the most part, to make sure that the title to your home or the title to your business it can be relied on by the records. And we have dating back to 1793, 13 million records here. So, and it's not just deeds, local boards, Board of Appeals. You might need to get a Board of Appeal to put an addition on. You have to record that document. Or the Conservation Commission might put conditions on some projects. All those documents get recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So, and when we borrow money, I have 3 children. When the youngest is now out of college, but you got to borrow money sometimes or take some equity out of your home. Those mortgages get recorded at the registry. And more importantly, another consumer issue, mortgage discharges. As a consumer, we want to make sure when we refinance or we are lucky enough at the end of everything to be paying off that last mortgage, that a mortgage discharge, which is a 1 or 2-page document, it tells the world that you don't owe any money. It gets recorded at the registry. So when you go to refinance once again, or maybe sell your house, that the closing attorney doesn't call you up with some type of title problem.
Bill, how do you keep up with all this? How many people work for you in your office?
Well, certainly less. At one time, a couple of registers ago, Barry Hannon had 69 employees. We're down
Holy
to
moly.
we're down to 40 employees. And again, it's a quasi-legal agency. You don't have to be a lawyer to run it. I use my legal training every day. And also, I think sometimes when you're a lawyer, you can speak the language. We actually have 4 lawyers on site, which not many registries, there's 21 across the state of Massachusetts, can claim that there are 4 attorneys there. So I have a great staff. There's no I in team. A lot of the modernization initiatives, all our documents are online. If one of our missions was to bring the registry's records into people's homes and businesses. So if you go to www.norfolkdeeds.org, you can look up the first document back to 1793. And as a matter of fact, we were the first registry in New England. We transcribed over 450,000 documents. I love
Wow.
history. So history, it was a part of my History Comes Alive project. So all those documents were handwritten, and we transcribed them all. As a matter of fact, David McCulloch, who's recently passed away not too long ago, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner. He wrote a nice note to me saying how easy it is to do research when it's transcribed, as
When it's
opposed to,
transcribed, sure.
yeah.
Do you still practice law, or is you're practicing of law
That
the
ended.
registry?
Yeah,
No.
no, yeah, there's no prohibition, but that ended. We focus on, the registry, and again, there's other projects I've put my energies into. For instance, our last, we have a couple of books, and if people want them, they can reach out to me at registerodonnell@norfolkdeeds.org. We had a 225th anniversary of Norfolk County, and we did a book. As a matter of fact, Olmsted from Brookline, we try to pick people from different areas. Actually, this is Medway, Grizzly Adams. We did
Wow.
people from history or other people. And we did 2 books. And as a matter of fact, Helen Keller and Ann Sullivan lived in Rentham. Catherine Lee Bates, although she was born in Falmouth, lived in Wellesley. She wrote America the Beautiful. And the last book we did, we tied into deeds. We did one for the We Remember Our Veterans, and it was a book
good.
about the history and some of the veterans in the 28 communities. Brookline's one of those communities. We have information, and so these are all based on the records at the registry. So I try to use my energies to do what the register probably did in 1793, make sure these records get recorded, and we still do it the old-fashioned way. I mentioned we have computerization. We've modernized the registry. We have a customer service center, 781-461-6101, where people can call, or we go out. We were recently at the various town halls, including the Brookline Town Hall. They were nice enough to give us space there, or the Brookline Senior Center, where we bring our records and give people copies of deeds. But we still print books. And they go all the way back to 1793.
Wow.
I like being the first at doing a lot of things, but I don't want to be the first register that gets rid of the books. We might have to someday with, budget cuts and things of that sort, but people can still come to the registry. We're at 649 High Street, right across from the Gold Dome Superior Court. You can come in and look at the books. And more importantly, we have over 50 public access terminals that people can do research on their own. And we recently, because the second fastest growing hobby in America is doing genealogical and historical research. We have a bank of computers where you can we have free ancestry.com access if people want to, and other resources in that genre that people
Bill,
can look up.
how do we get into that? I'm interested in that for my own family, obviously.
Well, most people do it. I have a subscription, and I've been doing it, and it takes you, both my grandparents, obviously were from Ireland, and they came and didn't know each other. 1921, my grandfather came through Ellis Island. My grandmother, 1923, came through East Boston. And a lot of times in families, I don't know, people didn't talk about things, and you can find stuff out in the records. Unfortunately, my grandmother lived to be 106. She died in 2011.
God bless her.
She
God bless
kept
her.
both sides of the family on the Atlantic. We still go over to Ireland, but on my father's side, it went through Canada, there's interesting journeys. So we have a bank of computers where people can at least get free access to Ancestry.com. And maybe with that interest, they might get their own subscription, but it takes you on an interesting journey and makes us realize how lucky we are to live in America, really.
Absolutely. Do you do anything? I should know this. I'm a lawyer, but I don't. Do you do anything with wills and estates? Are there any deeds and things that come out of wills and estates that your office handles?
Yes, as a matter of fact, a lot of times we get calls where people say, I can't find the deed to my home online. It's because they inherited the property. And
Okay.
in the days past, and there's an intersection, when people do title searches, the lawyers and the title examiners, they not only rely on the real estate records, they have to do searches at the probate court, which
Mm.
used to be in this building, but now they're in Canton. But they check for wills and to make sure wills were allowed and if there were divorces. So there's an intersection of the registry records and the probate court. The good news is there was a law passed that says when you inherit property, there has to be a deed put on record. I always did when I was a practicing attorney, even though you didn't have to, because I just realized a lot of my clients would want something on record, even if it was a
Right.
family. I'm the executor and I'm deeding it to my two brothers and me or my sisters. People want to see things in writing. So I always did it, even though you didn't have to. But now I think it was a good change of the law because I think it's good so we can avoid those calls where people are like, wait a minute, and they own the house. It's just they have to go to the probate court and go through the will and the allowance by the judge.
Right.
I just
Right.
think it helps when that will was allowed and the judge allowed everything that a document gets recorded at the registry, and that's the practice now.
Wow. We're talking to Bill O'Donnell, Registrar of Deeds of Norfolk County. And we hope he will continue to be Registrar of Deeds of Norfolk County. Bill, in the last few seconds, what advice do you give people like me who should know what they're talking about, but who don't? Who would,
Well, I think the best advice is there's a lot of information out there. For instance, when my parents, my mom grew up in Rosendale, my dad in Brighton, they moved to Norwood. They didn't have a homestead, even though they could have. People just didn't have access to justice, access to lawyers, access to information. And I think the internet and the society we live in, people can educate themselves. If you go on our website, www.norfolkdeeds.org, we have information for first-time home buyers. We have a glossary of real estate terms.
uh-huh.
But I think the big issue from consumers, make sure, you should have a homestead recorded. I think as I said earlier, 9.9 out of 10 attorneys would say that. Make sure when you borrow money that if those mortgages are paid off, or if an equity line's a mortgage, if you're not using the equity line or you've closed it off, make sure the mortgage discharge gets recorded at the registry. You can check the registry website to see if it's there. And then if not, you might have to get that discharge. And we have a document, where has my bank gone, on the website, so that if you have to, there's federal and state contact information, if you have to kind of find out where your bank went to, because as we know, some banks went out of business in the 1990s.
Right.
Others have merged and have successor entities that you have a right to get a mortgage discharge from.
So I'm hearing that we should do this on our own. I should go to your website and it's easy enough for me to figure out some of these things on my own, because I don't feel confident about that, Bill, quite frankly. I would probably call your office.
That's right. Well, some people, have done it on their own and successfully, but otherwise, that's why we, my dad climbed poles for the Boston Edison for 38 years, and his attitude was, some of us don't know anything about computers, don't care to know anything about computers, so remember us, and that's why we have a customer service center, so you can call up. And as a matter of fact, when we are at office hours, a lot of times people come in or we speak to community groups, or we're at the senior center, the Council on Aging. we can look up that information. And that's why
Right.
I urge people to contact the customer service center. They can look up and to check your mortgages and see if they've been discharged.
Ah, okay. And so in the last minute or two, it sounds like you do an awful lot in this office, an awful lot, and you have a number of employees. What would you suggest in the last minute that we all do besides go on your website?
Well,
What else should we do to
you know
bring
what?
us?
I think the biggest thing is it's the biggest asset you have. Most of us, right? And so take steps to protect it. That's you know, with the homestead. Take steps so that if you go to sell it, you want to make sure that discharges are there. And also there are scams going on. We in 2015, long before all this, you know, commercials and everything, we have a consumer notification service that I've signed up myself. I get a notice anytime a William O'Donnell document gets recorded at the registry. Now, there could be a time I check with my wife
Wow.
and I say, wait a minute, that's not us. Or I'm William Patrick O'Donnell. It could be William J. O'Donnell. It's not me. Or it could be William Patrick O'Donnell from Quincy. It's not me. But there could be a time when my wife and I say, wait a minute, that's a deed to our house. We didn't sign it. Or that's a mortgage or an equity line. We didn't sign it. Now, this system does not prevent the fraud, but at least you can get on it right away. And we have links to law enforcement agencies. So I think that's another area. We live in a society where people, unfortunately, there's an increased cybersecurity risk. And FBI actually says the fastest growing white collar crime is property and deed fraud. And I think it's unrealistic.
Really? Ooh.
Yeah, I think it's unrealistic to think that it's happening in California and Illinois and Philadelphia. I haven't seen it in Norfolk County, but I think it's unrealistic not to expect it to be happening.
Oh my goodness, Bill O'Donnell, thank you so much for your time. I know today is a really busy day for you. We wish you all the best. We're delighted you were on the show. We hope you'll come back.
I
And
would love to.
if you're here at the senior center or in Brookline, I hope you're going to come to Brookline Day.
Well, I have to, you know, my wife grew up on Elliott Street, you know, family of six sisters. So, and I have relatives in Brookline and some of them are still working there and living there. So, no, I have fond memories of Brookline and certainly will be over there.
Great. Thank you so much, Bill O'Donnell. We wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That's it for the Safety Net for this week. Bye, everybody. Enjoy the gorgeous, gorgeous weather. We've earned it.